Welcome to the Good Business Dufferin podcast, hosted by the Dufferin Board of Trade through our social enterprise, the Dufferin Biz Hub. Our podcast is based on our belief that small businesses have the power to drive positive change in our community. Whether you're looking to grow your business, strengthen our community, or hopefully both, we've got you covered. Hello, I'm Diana Morris, Executive Director of the Dufferin Board of Trade and the Dufferin Biz Hub. Today, we're excited to welcome Orangeville Mayor Lisa Post. Mayor Post is leading some wonderful initiatives in our community, including the Rooted in Community Food Drive, the Mayor's Quarterly Town Hall, the Fare Free Transit Program, and her new Orangeville The Bright Side Facebook group. All of these are designed to bring positivity and support to our community. We'll also be discussing the power of small business to drive positive change and hearing about the great work local businesses in Orangeville are doing. Before we dive in, we'd like to thank this episode's sponsor, Skorsky Web Design, for supporting the podcast and helping local businesses thrive while building up our community. Let's get started. So I feel like most of Dufferin knows you. Pretty well everyone knows you. But for those who don't, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you became the mayor of Orangeville?
For sure. So I started getting interested in local politics from a very young age. I had some family influence. My grandfather was very involved in Caledon politics and always taught us as kids to give back to the community in some way, whether it was through politics or through volunteerism. And as I started to get a little older and raise my kids, I volunteered with a lot of organizations, and I really started to see some of the gaps that they had. So I ran for council for the first time unsuccessfully in 2014, and then I followed along. So after I lost in 2014, I attended all of the council meetings. The reason I ran in 2014 was because my kids were getting to an age where I wanted them to want to grow up in Orangeville and to stay in Orangeville. And I wanted the community to be somewhere where they could envision raising their future families. So I ran unsuccessfully in 2014 and then followed along, went to all the council meetings, wrote a blog about it. Successfully got down to council in 2018. Really enjoyed my time on council. Felt like we made a lot of good strides, even though we had the curse of COVID as part of our council term. And then following that, I just felt like it was time to run for mayor and bring a different voice of leadership to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. You had a very challenging first term of council. There's no doubt about that on so many levels. And I guess that passion that you have for making our community better, that must be your inspiration for so many of the initiatives you're doing right now. The one that I've seen all over my Facebook feed lately is the Rooted in Community Food Drive. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So Rooted in Community is a tagline I use for everything. And it's really the mantra that I use for my entire role as mayor and even before that on council. I feel like all the decisions that we do really need to be deeply rooted in community. They have to have that community development. It has to be for the benefit of the good of the community. And I try to put that lens on everything that I do. So you'll see that as a hashtag in all of my social media posts. It was what I used when I ran for mayor as well as kind of my slogan. And it's really fed into everything that I do. So the Rooted in Community Food Drive was really spurred because over the past couple of months, I've spent a lot of time with Heather Hayes at the food bank, and we've talked a lot about food insecurity. We've, of course, seen an increase in poverty. We've started to see homelessness encampments pop up around the community. And a lot of that is dependent on food security. The food security piece is really almost the last step before somebody ends up in the homeless piece, right? So we need to do better. We need to make sure that people aren't having to make the decision between rent and groceries. So if we can support them, we will. Heather had shared a lot of what's been going on in the community and really the increase of need that she's seen in food bank use. They're seeing over 1,400 clients a month right now, which is an unprecedented amount for the Orangeville Food Bank. When Heather started 9 years ago, they were only seeing 300 clients in a month.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's a staggering number.
That is.
And although thanks to the generosity of the community, they do get about 20,000 pounds of food through the door in donations every single month. Right now, they have 50,000 pounds of food going out the front door to fulfill the need from both individuals in the community as well as the other organizations that they support, like Choices Shelter, Family Transition Place, those types of organizations. So there's a huge gap, 30,000 pounds of food a month as a gap. So I started to think about, how can I help? I've got a platform. I need to be able to use it in some way. And it's kind of funny because the way that I zone out the community when I do campaigning or when I try to deliver a message, I use that same thought process in putting together a competition that could be a little more fun for the community. So we broke Orangeville into 15 zones, and then we had East Fairfax and Mono join us to become our 16th and 17th zone. And each of those really represents a neighborhood, a community within a community, right? So the goal was to get those folks to rally their own community to try and raise the most food and have a fun, friendly competition to see which neighborhood, which zone could raise the most. So within a couple of weeks, so I had put it out on Facebook of saying, hey, I think this is what we need to do. Within 24 hours, I had every zone covered with volunteers because there were so many people that stepped up and said, I'll lead zone 4, I'll lead zone 7. So that was done. Within 72 hours, they were printing flyers, distributing them around their neighborhoods. Small businesses had stepped up to be zone hubs to find how they could support. It was really fantastic to see. And at the end of it, so 3 weeks later, from the day that I announced what we were doing to the day we were actually doing the drive, we managed to raise almost 21,000 pounds of food in 3 hours. That was from 10 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock. That's what the food bank normally raises in an entire month. We raised as a community in 3 hours. On top of that, we also had $9,000 raised, which represented another significant amount of food that they could purchase. Because for every $3.58 that was donated as a financial donation, that represents another pound of food that they can buy.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was pretty amazing.
And the competition, I saw some friendly competition. Now, which zone won? Are you at liberty to say?
Yes. So the zone that won, and I don't have the number in front of me, but it was the Settlers Creek zone that ended up winning.
Yeah.
It was really close between the Browns Farm Montgomery Village team and the Settlers Creek team. In number of pounds of food, it was actually Browns Farm area that won, but Settlers Creek was able to get a little bit more financial donation that took them up to over the edge.
Oh, it was so fun to follow that on Facebook. It was fantastic. And thank you for doing that. What a difference that has made.
It was pretty incredible. And the vibe in the community was really awesome too, because I went from zone to zone to zone and everybody was hyped up. And I think even more importantly than the fun part of it and the community part of it was the conversations that were happening, because people were talking about food insecurity and what that means in our community and what it looks like in the community, because, you know, the food insecurity is not always what you think you're going to see. It's people with jobs, it's people with homes, it's, you know, it's your neighbors. Those are the people who are struggling.
Yeah. What an amazing thing just to get people talking. And you have another project that gets people talking. You do a quarterly town hall as well. And what started that? Why do you do those?
So I started those. I came up with the idea during the campaign, and it was because the more I knocked on doors, the more I talked to residents, the more they told me that they felt disconnected. They didn't know how to engage. Coming to council meetings is a little bit overwhelming. It can be a little, you know, it's regulated. We have to follow the Municipal Act. We've got procedures. It can be a little stuffy feeling. And a town hall I can do in a much more casual way. So we never have all of council there, because then we would have quorum and it would be a council meeting. So it's myself and 2 other members of council who come, and they give updates on their committee portfolios that they've got. And then we open up the floor. We ask questions, we answer questions. I've got staff there to help answer. And it really helps it give a more accessible and friendly way for the community to engage. We do them quarterly. They're done in the evening. We do them at Tony Rose, so it's a nice, easy venue. We always provide coffee and water in the beginning at Timbit, so you know you can have a little light snack. Staff deliver a presentation just based on some of the things that they've gotten a lot of questions from residents on. The one that we just did, we focused on municipal budgeting and how municipal budgets are done, and kind of simplified the process so that the residents could understand how we come up with the increase amount and all of those things. And then once the presentation from staff is done, we open up the floor and residents can ask whatever they want, whether it's about the presentation from staff or about something else that's on their mind. We often get a lot of questions about road safety in their neighborhoods, asking questions about stop signs or speed bumps, or a lot of stuff about transit or recreation as well. It's just a good way to get people engaged.
That's fantastic. And you find that you're getting all types of demographic of people coming out, all age groups?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. You're really good at engaging youth who are typically not engaged in a political town hall, a political forum. So I know that's certainly one of your areas of expertise.
So one of the things that we're doing through my Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, which is something that I implemented at the beginning of my term as well, is we're doing town halls at the high schools. So we did one last year at ODSS. It was super well attended. The youth came out and their questions were fantastic. They were asking stuff that was relevant to them and their community. And it was really great to see. I'm hoping to have one at Westside coming up in the next month or so. And we're going to try and do those regularly. I'd like to hit each high school at least once a year to try and do one of these and really gauge their questions. It's important that their questions get answered.
That's fantastic. And I know there's some discussion about petitions for potentially wanting the voting age lowered.
Hmm.
So, having our youth engaged absolutely is at a young age and
It's
keeps them
critical.
informed because there's, some people will just vote what their parents are voting,
Yeah,
right? So if we can inform and engage and connect with the youth, I think that's brilliant. And you
absolutely.
have good turnouts. Lots of students are attending.
Lots of students have attended the first
That's
one, and I'm
fantastic.
hoping to get the same. I also get the opportunity to go into classrooms and talk. A lot of teachers will invite me in to talk
Yeah.
about civics, and it's one of my favorite things to do. I love giving tours of town hall. I love going into the classroom because, again, their voices matter, and the decisions that we're making today are the decisions that are going to impact them when they're adults. So hearing what their input is and the things that they feel are gaps, we need to address those. We need to take them seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. And sort of maybe on the other end of the spectrum of the
Yeah.
youth is Facebook.
Yeah.
So we have the Orangeville, the Bright Side
Yeah.
group. And again, that was all over my Facebook because I'm at the Facebook demographic. But I'd love to know, how did you come up with that? And what is the goal with that group?
Working with a couple of other ladies in the community, actually, we had a few conversations about how toxic social media can be, and how
Yeah.
when there are some groups, some community groups out there that aren't as positive and are focused more on complaining about things that are going on in the community, and those can be really negative and really toxic. And when those start, they really fester and they feed, and when somebody puts out a complaining post, nobody's jumping in to say the positive. They're all jumping in to keep feeding that narrative, right? And it makes it a really negative space. And Orangeville and our community, our surrounding area, has so much positive that if we took some time to focus on that, we really wanted to find a way to engage that positivity and talk about all the great things that are going on. So the Bright Side was born as an idea of having a place where only positivity is allowed. We're celebrating your neighbor. We're celebrating the person who paid it forward to you at Tim Hortons and bought your coffee, right? The great clerk that you had at the grocery store. Those are the people that impact the day-to-day of Orangeville and make it the community that it is. And if we can take some time to highlight that positivity and get people talking about the positive and focusing less on the negative, I hope that we can keep inspiring that and keep people engaged in the good stuff.
I've seen a few posts too about people who are no longer in Orangeville, but they're reminiscing about the days 20 years ago when they lived here. And that's so inspiring.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's great. It keeps feeding my own positivity as well as
Absolutely.
I get to read all the positive stuff, right? Because
Yeah.
you can get bogged down in the negative on social media, and especially in my role,
Yeah.
there's
There's a lot. Yes.
right, there's a lot that happens. So
Yeah.
it's nice to hear the positive stuff and look at the community in that positive way.
Oh, I get it. And that's a huge role that we're doing here at the Board of Trade. We're trying to help businesses build positively, build the community, and help our community
Absolutely.
develop. And I know in your role, you see a lot of businesses. I know it's part of your mission too, is to go out and talk to as many small
Mhm.
business owners as you can. We have some amazing businesses in Dufferin. What sort of vibe are you getting from the business community here?
We've got the best business community. I mean,
We
of
do.
all the municipalities, our small businesses really are the heart and soul of our community. They're the groups who are sponsoring our hockey teams and making sure that, things are happening in the community. They're the ones who are reaching out and doing all of the positive things. Like I said, when we started the Rooted in Community Food Drive, it was the small businesses in town that were like, how do I help? How do I support? What can I do? Can I be a hub? How can you, right? So having them engage in that piece was really powerful. What we see a lot with small businesses, they've just gone through a really difficult time coming out of COVID, right? There's a lot of things that have changed the way that people work, the way that people think, the way that the community operates, the way that supply chain happens. All of those things have completely changed. And small businesses, I know we've used the word pivot so many times, had to pivot so many times to try and just adjust to the new normal, whatever was happening. And we've never gone back to the way that it was, and we never will. And small businesses are the ones who felt that hit the highest. Struggling with getting employees, struggling with, again, the different way that people work. So seeing their resiliency and the way that they've come out of COVID has been so inspiring. Like some of the creativity and new ideas that they've come out with to reinvent their business, to rethink about the way that they conduct their business in town is pretty incredible. Our job within the town of Orangeville, myself as mayor and our economic development team, and Councillor Andrews as chair of the economic development committee, what they really want to do is learn all the different ways that we can better support small businesses. So we've just recently done an economic development strategy. Our focus is really to understand what the growing sectors are, how we can better help to support and nourish that growth, because we have to stop the mentality of chasing smokestacks and trying to get big industry to come into Orangeville. That's not who we are. It's not what we're about. We saw that the highest growth area was the arts and culture. That was our highest growth sector in the town of Orangeville. That's amazing. So how do we continue to feed that? And how do we support arts and culture businesses better than we have before to make sure that they can grow and prosper and change? And we want our businesses to stay in Orangeville and choose to grow in Orangeville or Dufferin County, stay within our community. How can we better support that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so fortunate in Orangeville and Dufferin County. We have an amazing arts and culture community, as you're saying. We also have culinary arts. We have some fabulous restaurants. What are you hearing from our arts community and the other small businesses? Are there any particular challenges that you're hearing that they're, on the heels of COVID, as you mentioned? What are we facing right now with the small businesses?
I think the big challenge right now is funding. There's not the funding opportunities that there were. There's not as many grants coming out of the federal government or provincial government that used to really support the arts community. And that's a challenging piece. For those who are looking to grow, getting employees is still a challenging piece, that workforce component. But also the cost of rent and space is another big challenging piece. So a lot of people, again, are changing the way that they're working. They're doing a home-based business or an online-only business because having that actual bricks and mortar space is too expensive. It's just changed and they can't afford that rental space anymore. So I think those are probably the three biggest challenges that I hear from that sector specifically.
Yeah. And we survey businesses every year and we hear pretty much the same thing from all sectors. Here at the Biz Hub, as you know, we have spaces to rent.
Which is awesome.
A lot of businesses scaled up, but we have a wait list now because our spaces, we have 5 permanent tenants in permanent offices and we have daily rentals, but they're such demand because businesses do want space. They want to grow. They want to scale up, which is a good sign. It means our small businesses are doing well, but we need to have the affordable space and everything for them.
For sure. And that's going to continue to be a challenge. It really is. So it's something that we need to think about. And again, you've done innovative things to try and provide space. And we need to think that way as well. How can we better provide for businesses that are in those types of needs?
Yeah. And I think the way the businesses are looking for space has changed because we operate here. Basically, it's a scale up from your home office, but it's a very homey atmosphere. We have amazing coffee syrups and great coffee. We have Rocky, the Black Lab. It's very much a home base, but it's one step above. And I think that's what a lot of businesses are looking for is how do they just scale up just a little bit? Not how do they open a new 5,000 square foot facility? It's how do they scale up in increments?
That's right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. And as the businesses are scaling up, we really want them to contribute to the well-being of our community. I know there's a couple of other initiatives that you are involved in, such as the Celebrate Your Awesome and other things that businesses can do to help make our community better. Is there any of those you want to touch on a little bit?
Well, Celebrate Your Awesome is a great one. Getting sponsorships from our local businesses has made that festival happen. And we've got other festivals in the town of Orangeville that, rely on the small business support and our local business support in sponsorships and volunteerism and those types of things. Blues and Jazz is another one, Rotary Rib Fest, getting involved with their businesses in some of our service clubs. There's lots of opportunities for businesses to give back in whatever way they think is best, whether it be by volunteering or by providing sponsorships. There's lots of ways that different organizations can help them get their name out and can also use the help, right?
Yeah, that's a win-win for sure.
Absolutely.
I know you're right. At service clubs, a lot of service clubs need help in support, whether it's people joining as members or financial contributions. There's so many ways. So even a small business, if they don't have the economic means, there's so many other ways.
And lots of in-kind partnerships too. If they're able to offer a service in kind rather than a financial donation, lots of organizations are looking for that type of support if they've got a niche skill or service that they can offer.
Yeah, a lot of meaning. And we talk about volunteerism is a bit on the decline, and we know it's been on the decline for a while. One of the last events we needed some volunteers, so we found a hockey team, offered them a small stipend, and we had 10 hockey players come in and set up 300 chairs for us. So there's ways you can work around, and you can continue to support while getting what you need, an in-kind thing, and supporting the small businesses and supporting the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of those ways really give an opportunity for the small businesses to get their name out and to really link up with an organization that fulfills their strategic priorities or their mission, vision, and values.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's so important to be connected with the right thing, the right thing that's passionate with you.
Absolutely.
So is there any final thoughts that you have for how businesses can make a bigger impact in our community?
One of the things that I actually just wanted to briefly highlight was the Fare Free Transit program in the town of Orangeville. We've extended that to the till July of 2027. And one of the reasons that we did it was to try and support small businesses better and offer ways for their employees to get to work that is economically good and all of those things. But at the county level, we've also just approved, and again, pending budget approval, a route from Shelburne to Orangeville to try and better support that connectivity as well. And it will also be fare free until July 2027. So it will get people, again, the route is still being worked on, but it will get people from Shelburne to Orangeville and then back and connect to either the GO station or to Orangeville's transit so that you can get around Orangeville or you can get into the city if you need to.
That is fantastic. And when is the goal? When do they think that's going to start?
January 1.
That's amazing.
So
that will impact so many businesses who need labor
significantly.
And it'll have a ton of impacts. That is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So council unanimously supported it going to the budget phase. So they're working on the MOU with the town of Orangeville. So the town of Orangeville will provide the buses to use and operate the service, and it'll be funded by the county.
That's amazing. And what impact will that have on the bus service? Will the town need to hire some more bus drivers?
Well, we actually contract out to First Student.
Perfect.
So we'll use our First Student drivers to help enhance that. We already have a couple of buses that the small 12-passenger vans that we're going to utilize to start with. And as we go, we hope to continue to expand that service. So we're going to start with Orangeville to Shelburne because we know there's a need. And then we'll look at how we can expand it, make it better. We'll continue to look at the data and provide feedback. And hopefully we can continue to add even to Grand Valley or to other areas in the municipalities.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. That's really, really exciting.
So exciting.
Yeah, that'll have a lot of impacts. That's awesome. Is there anything else that I forgot? There's so many initiatives on the go.
I know there's so much going on. No, I don't think so. You know, I think at the end of the day, I just really wanted to highlight the importance of our small business and the importance of people in our community shopping local, spending their dollars locally wherever possible, and really reaching out to businesses to find out what unique offerings they have. Because some businesses I've found as I visited them offer way more than I ever knew that they did. Yeah. So before you order something online from Amazon or drive into Brampton to get something, try and do your research in Dufferin County to see who locally can service you, because you'd be surprised by the amount of businesses that we have that can probably meet all of your needs.
Oh, that's amazing advice. Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us today on the Good Business Dufferin podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you about all the initiatives that you have. The food drive initiative is amazing. The transit, I'm super excited about how this is going to impact our businesses. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here. And if people want to follow along, does the town have social media, or is there a newsletter? Or what's the best way for people to know when the town halls are, what the next initiatives are?
Yeah, both. So follow on all social media platforms. They can follow the town of Orangeville. Also, if you go to the town of Orangeville website, you can click to get the newsletter that will come out, and it will give reminders of all meetings that are coming up. Or you can follow myself on social media as well. I'm on all of them as well. So, and I try to put all my information out there.
That's perfect. So thank you again so much for being with us. Thank you to Skorsky Web Design for sponsoring this episode. If you'd like to learn more about how the Dufferin Biz Hub can support your business, visit our website and stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This episode is sponsored by Skorsky Web Design, your project-based WordPress web designer and developer. Get worry-free help when you need it.